Today on the Everything Food Podcast, we're talking with a leader who sits at the crossroads of culinary excellence and operational strategy. Chef Miranda Maszk isn't just cooking, she's steering the entire engine at LaSoupe, where rescue food becomes nourishment and logistics become lifelines. As Chief Culinary and Operation Officers, she's shaping systems, building teams, and proving that feeding the community requires both heart and high-level execution. How you doing today, Chef?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. First of all, give us who is Chef Miranda and how did you get to LaSoupe?
Okay. I started cooking when I was 15. My first kitchen job was peeling 100 pounds of potatoes and cleaning bathrooms every day for Silver Lake and Sons. And
You must have been at the Masonette.
I started because of need. My mom was a server at a steakhouse and not home at night, and I needed some extra money, and so I kind of got into the culinary field out of need. Of just needed some cash, needed some money, and all of her boyfriends were chefs, so I always thought it was really cool. Like, hey, they might have 9 fingers, or they'd always make steak at home. But so I grew up in the business, and when I was 21, I got my first sous chef gig at a country club, and I went to culinary school at the age of 18, and I got a full ride thanks to manager association scholarship through the country club I worked at. So without that, I wouldn't have been able to go to culinary school. Back then, it was Cincinnati State, not a MCI. So we got like the home ec classroom, not the fancy refrigerated
Right.
rooms. And I've worked over the city, mostly in clubs and country clubs and catering. I did my own thing for a little bit. I worked for Sodexo and Compass, so I learned systems. They're very, very well executed systems with such large companies. Worked for some smaller places, and then through Sodexo and Compass, I was introduced to Susie DeYoung, who founded LaSoupe, and became a volunteer with the Bucket Brigade for 3 years. And I got other units in Sodexo and Compass to also make soup. So it was probably at one time 6-7 different units making soup for the soup. When we were down at Round Bottom in 900 square feet, and now we're in a 16,000 square foot building. So we've grown a little bit.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. And then so February of 2019, I became kitchen manager, and that was when we were at Round Bottom, very small, just kind of getting some systems in place, and became executive chef fairly shortly after that. And then very shortly after that, the pandemic hit, and we grew 200% in 1 week. Restaurants closed their doors. The food chain supply buckled up. GFS, Cisco, restaurants all contacting us to come and rescue food. They were bringing us food. We were fortunate to run paths with the owner of Fireside Grill in Blue Ash, and he said, hey, I've got a restaurant. It's closed. It can't be open, but why don't you guys use it? I have a 2,000 square foot dining room that you can turn into your prep kitchen. So we got 2 refurb trucks in the parking lot. One was a freezer, one was a refrigerator, and the dining room turned into 6-foot tables, rows of them, and we were making meals. We had not really made that many meals before that. It was mostly soup, so it kind of turned us into what we are now, in that path of balanced meals of protein, starch, and vegetables, and getting it out in different packages that fit what the consumer needs, whether it's a family of 1 or 2 or 5 or groups of 20 or more. So
on an average, how many meals were you making, say, the first week of the pandemic when you hit that restaurant?
When we hit that restaurant, we probably started making 2,000 meals from we were doing like 100 a week before.
Right.
So yeah, it was a huge, and now we're making in a week. Hold on, I need to do some math. 200. That's 200,000. And we do things by serving, so it's a little complicated, but I could tell you in 2 seconds. We make about 12,000 meals a week now. Plus some.
And those meals are going to where? Where's
They're going to after-school programs. They're going to some schools. They're going to pantries, churches, Saturday hoops, programs. They're going all sorts of places.
Okay. So when they go into these places, how is it a format that's set up so it's okay? So if I walk in and I say, "Hey, I got a school over here, new school, it's 150 students," I could reach out to LaSoupe. We could coordinate and I could get the meals for the student.
Unfortunately, right now we do have a waiting list because the need is so great in our city. We try to filter that waiting list as often as we possibly can based on the product that we're getting. Places that might just need some ingredients might come through the list a little bit quicker depending on what we're rescuing. Places that there's a greater need, even this last year and a half, the need is probably increased at least by 25%. And I don't think that we could ever make enough. We're very dependent on the food that we're getting. Last year we saw a decrease across the board in donations. It's picked up a lot in the last 4 months, but our business is based on the excess. So, and then trying to bridge that gap that helps the food people experiencing food insecurity. So it's all contingent on if the right things fall in place and up to our creative chefs to say, hey, we didn't get a whole lot, but this is what we could do. We've got this pasta that's been on the shelf and we can add some of this and that. And like, that's, we have we like to say that we are chef led because of that. We know what to do with the dinged and the bruised and things that might not make sense to the home cook, where they might just get the ingredients at the pantry, but we can turn it into something where they can just reheat. One less thing to worry about when they're home. They can focus on schoolwork, focus on, I'm sure that there's probably other things in their life that is pertinent to their attention.
So to you, chef, what does leadership look like when you're responsible for both the food and the system behind it?
Making sure that the staff are feeling that as well, that they are empowered, that they're not just cooking food because we have some food, that we're cooking it with dignity because there's people that this might be the highlight of their day. This might be the the one thing that they know is consistent is the product that we can offer.
Right.
So
Because
it's
just because
important to
it's
me to,
donated food don't mean you just give
yeah,
out slop.
right, right. And just because it's free doesn't mean it's less quality.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but to me, it's important that the staff know the whys behind, that they are empowered to make decisions, and building leaders is what I like to think that we're doing. Anybody that leaves this kitchen should be able to find a first cook, sous chef job in their next decision making career choice.
So most of the time when you think of nonprofit, you think cooking, you're just there and it's just kind of lackadaisical and you just kind of, but like any other commercial kitchen, you're hustling, things happen, burns, and people get tired. So how do you support your team through like burnout, heavy days, or somebody can have an emotional moment?
Yep, it happens. I think we check in with people a lot. We make sure that we give people the space that they need when they need it. Communication goes both ways. So we kind of need to know all the time can sometimes create fatigue in itself, but we take turns doing and covering for each other. And I think checking in is a huge part of what we do. I come from lots of really busy kitchens, and I've come through some fairly unhealthy kitchens. So I think that the model that we have is kind of it's the parenting thing. Well, I'll never do that when I'm this or that, but I think we speak to it. There's one thing that anybody comes through our facility that everybody always remarks on, and that's everybody seems like they are just really enjoying being here, and that's the staff, because our volunteers make it worth it. The mission makes it worth it. We make it worth it for each other.
So the grind of doing the question I want to ask is there anything that when you first left the commercial side and got into the nonprofit side that was shocking, that was like, whoa, because most times people think every kitchen is the same. If you could cook, you could saute, it's the same. But commercial kitchens have a different, I can't say the word and you might help me by answering the question, but what's the difference?
One of the differences that I try to make sure that when I'm bringing in new people, they don't have ego. They can't. And I've interviewed some really great chefs in the city, but I didn't hire them because their ego wasn't the right fit for us. The ego here is selfless. We're doing it for each other. We're doing it for the community, and it's a bigger, much bigger picture. So it's hard for some folks that when the way that we plan the next day, we look and see what we have on hand. It's not, oh, what do I want to make? It's, well, this is what I'm going to make because this is what I have and this is what makes sense to
This
make.
is what's available.
And then, hey, you know what? This just came through the door. Now you got to put this in your soup, and seeing how people react. Either makes them or breaks them. They roll with the punches, or they obviously like, that's, you're probably not the best fit for us. So my interview process might be a little. I do paid stages for folks, and I intentionally put some roadblocks in their way in the day of, like, here's what you're making, and then halfway through go, okay, now you're using this too, and see what the reaction is. So we have to be selfless, we have to be egoless, and I think we've achieved that pretty well. We're definitely proud of the things that we make.
What has Chef Miranda, if somebody put you in a room, peace and quiet, asks you one question, and the question is, what has Chef Miranda taken away from LaSoupe? If you left LaSoupe today and somebody says, what was the impact there, because you're wearing the hat? What was your impact? What was the impact on you?
Me.
What was the impact on you?
For me, I think I've learned so much patience. I've learned so much humility, just being able to help provide the tools for the others, for them to do their job. That's what's most important to me is, what can I do to help make their job easier? When I think 20 years ago it was like, see what I can do. And now it's, how can I help you get to where you want to be? But I think I never thought I was a coach, a leader. But I also played roller derby for 13 years and coached for 3 years. So maybe I was kind of coachy, but
yeah, you was coaching, and you, roller derby was setting you up for the bumps and the bruises, and the mean mugs, the unpredictability. Because culinary is the industry. I don't care what segment you in, is unpredictable. You could go in with a plan, and something could throw a monkey wrench in it, and improvisation is a very good skill to have.
Yeah. And 20 years ago, I was an active alcoholic. I've been sober now for 17 years, just had my anniversary last month.
Congratulations.
And I think I got into the industry because it was like, oh, I can drink here and nobody can really say anything because I can work my ass off and then I can go party. And it wasn't a big thing, but I ended up getting into some trouble with the law and having to go to jail a few times. And I think after that, it was like, okay, like, this isn't this.
Yeah, and it happens.
This isn't good.
I've had people tell me about that part of the culinary industry,
Yeah, and it's not uncommon. So, no, but to be that far away from it and to be able to help some people that might be kind of in the same boat when I was back there, that's been a huge part for me. I've been here for 7 years, and I've hired all sorts of folks that, were maybe in a halfway house when they started. And by the time they leave, they've got their own place. They're doing much better.
Freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom.
It's important.
Freedom of choice.
Yeah.
I want to volunteer.
Okay. Come make some soup. Right,
where would I find the location? The location, the hours of operation, and who would I need to talk to get involved?
To get involved, I just need your email. So then I will connect you with our volunteer director, and then they will send you the information, the website to sign up with, and then you can see the hours and the shifts, and you can choose when you want to come. We're open 8 to 4 is our retail hours. We do have a small retail area in the front of our building that the chefs get a chance to make small batches of sandwich salad, showcase some of our soups. We have some soups that we make for our shares and for retail, but there are some ones that we've made for years. Chicken noodle soup. Every time we make it with Green Acres chicken bones. We do mushroom tarragon. We do
on the way.
We do beef bourguignon in the wintertime for a fundraiser. Some classics in there.
So I'll be going to jail for stealing from LaSoupe. Stealing soup from LaSoupe. Where are you located?
We are in Walnut Hills. And for our volunteers, we do have lunch every day that we have a big open room in the front. That's usually our education room. But whatever lunchtime is that day, we put a full spread out. So if you're there in the morning, you could stay in for lunch. If you come at 1 o'clock for the shift, you can come a little bit early.
So if someone comes through, is there anything pertaining to the education side where you could get some type of certification or anything? Serve safe, maybe?
Certification, all of our employees are ServSafe certified in one level or another. But for our education, it's usually classes that are through our Gives a Crock program or Cooking for the Family. And the Gives a Crock, just how it sounds, we usually go to the schools for that, but we do have some improv classes in-house that are taught through our education department. But the Gives a Crock kids, they get a slow cooker at the end of the 6 weeks, so they get to go home with some of the tools that they learned.
Okay. So website, we got a website link, phone number.
Yep. www.lasoupe.org. We have shifts that go from 9 to noon, 1 to 3, or 3:30 to 5:30, Monday through Thursday, and then Friday the day's a little bit shorter.
Okay. All right, Chef. Well, I want to thank you. Big thanks to Chef Miranda Maszk for showing us what it looks like when culinary skill meets community purpose. LaSoupe proves that food rescue isn't about saving ingredients, it's about saving dignity, saving resources, and feeding people with intentions. Stay curious, stay hungry, and keep questioning everything food. Thank you, Chef.
Thank you.
I'll stop in one day and ask for you.
Yeah, I'd like to give
Thank
you a tour.
you.
Love to.
Okay. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.